I'd been looking forward to tonight all week. After the constant grind at work, a quiet evening with Sarah was just what I needed. I'd planned everything. A simple dinner, her favorite wine, pasta with a light sauce, and tiramisu from that little Italian shop she loved. I set the table, lit a couple of candles, and even put on some soft music in the background. Nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. When the door clicked open, I stood up, ready for her reaction. She stepped inside, a bag slung over her shoulder, eyes scanning the room. "Oh," she said, her voice flat. "Hey, I made dinner. I thought we could just relax tonight. No rush, just us." She nodded but didn't smile. "Looks nice, I guess." I felt the air shift. She was different, disconnected, like I had done something wrong. I tried to keep the mood light. "It's not a big deal, just wanted to do something nice for us." She dropped her bag by the door, still not looking at me. "Yeah, well, not really in the mood for forced romance, John." It hit harder than I expected. Forced? I wasn't trying to fix anything. "I'm not trying to fix anything," I said, my voice slipping a little. "I just thought we could spend some time together, that's all." She didn't respond, just turned and walked down the hallway to the bedroom. I stood there, my chest tight, watching her go. I stood there for a few moments, unsure if I should follow or just let it go. But she was already behind the door. The soft click of it shutting was final. I glanced at the table, the wine, the dinner, everything I'd put together. It felt stupid now, like a joke. I let out a breath, sat down, and stared at the plate of food I'd made for her, untouched. The candles flickered in the silence. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Sarah's coffee brewing. It was almost like the night before never happened, like everything was fine again. She didn't seem upset, didn't even bring it up. She just walked into the kitchen, gave me a quick glance, and said, "Morning." I mumbled back, "Morning." There was no warmth in her voice, no real connection, just casual, like we were roommates or something, not partners. "So," she said, grabbing her mug, "I was thinking about hitting up that new brunch spot on Saturday with Jess and Kate. You cool with that?" I didn't know what to say. She was acting like nothing was wrong, like she didn't just shut me out last night, like I didn't just try to make an effort and get shot down. I nodded, trying not to sound too bothered. "Yeah, sounds good." She didn't even look at me when she spoke, just stirred her coffee. Before I could figure out how to react, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. My brother, Matt. I picked it up quickly, hoping it would at least distract me from the weird tension in the air. "Hey, Matt. Yo, you guys still coming to Mom's this weekend?" Yeah, we're good," I said, not even hesitating. He paused. "All right, cool. See you then." The call ended, but the lie sat heavy in my stomach. We weren't good, but I couldn't exactly tell him that. I turned back to Sarah, but she was already looking at her phone, scrolling through whatever nonsense she was into this morning. I just stared at her for a moment. We used to talk more in the mornings about random stuff, the way we'd connect over the smallest things. But now, there was nothing. I finished my coffee and sat there for a minute, trying to find something to say. But it wasn't worth it. I could already tell she wasn't interested in talking, not today. When she left for work, I stayed behind, the apartment feeling empty again. I went through the motions, cleaning up the kitchen, but it was just background noise. Later, I found myself scrolling through her social media, something I hadn't done in a while. It was a reflex, something I didn't really want to admit to. I saw a post from her with a group of friends, laughing, looking carefree. The picture made my stomach twist. It was clear she was out having fun, living her life, while I was stuck here, alone with my thoughts. It was like she'd forgotten I existed in her world. I hadn't been invited, hadn't even been mentioned. Not that I'd expected anything, but it still stung. As I kept scrolling, I remembered the little things, small signs that had been there for a while, but I didn't want to see. How she started disappearing more often, going out with friends, or spending late nights at work. How she didn't initiate anything. No hugs, no kisses, not even a simple touch. It was always me trying to close the distance, and she was always a step back. It wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just last night. It was everything leading up to this moment, these little steady shifts. I'd tried to ignore it for a while, telling myself it would pass, that she'd snap out of it. But now, I knew. This wasn't a one-off thing. This was her pulling away, little by little, until we were just this. Two people who used to be close. now living in the same space but not even touching. I sat back and stared at the screen, the weight of it all finally sinking in. This wasn't about one dinner. This wasn't about a bad night. It was the quiet, inevitable drift. It had been happening for a while, and I couldn't pretend it wasn't anymore. I wasn't sure when it all changed, but now I could see it for what it was. And it wasn't going to get any better. That night, Sarah didn't get home until after midnight. The sound of the door unlocking and her footsteps in the hallway didn't do anything to break the silence that had stretched between us for weeks. I didn't even bother pretending to be asleep. I was waiting for her to come in, waiting for something, anything, that might break this cold stretch of nothing between us. When she stepped into the living room, I could smell it right away. Perfume, the kind she used to wear, mixed with alcohol. It was a strong mix, the kind you can't hide. "You're late," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Yeah, sorry," she mumbled, shrugging off her jacket. I was at Jess's. "You smell like more than just wine." She rolled her eyes, like I was overreacting. "It's just perfume. It's nothing. We were just hanging out." I didn't know why, but something about her tone didn't sit right. She was dismissive, like she was trying to shut me out again. My gut twisted, but I forced myself to stay calm. I wasn't about to start another fight, at least not yet. "Okay," I said, though the word tasted bitter. "It's just, you've been gone a lot. I mean, when's the last time I cut myself off. I didn't want to sound pathetic. "Can we just spend more time together? Like, just us?" She pulled her phone out of her purse, barely looking at me. "I'm busy, John. You know that." "I know, but..." I trailed off, unsure how to keep going without sounding like I was begging. "I miss spending time with you. That's all." She didn't even acknowledge it. "I'm sure you do," she muttered, staring at her screen. I stood there, feeling like I'd just slammed into a brick wall. She wasn't even trying anymore. Hell, she'd never even tried to make this work in the first place. It wasn't about being busy. It was about avoiding me. And I was starting to realize that no matter how many times I reached out, she wasn't coming back. A few weeks ago, I'd tried to hold her hand on the couch. Just a simple touch, like we used to do all the time. She flinched, didn't even try to hide it. That moment crushed me more than I wanted to admit. She didn't want to be close to me anymore. She couldn't even stand me being close. Now, standing here in the kitchen, I felt that same emptiness. I could tell by the way she was behaving that I was losing her, and nothing I did seemed to change that. No dinner, no wine, no words were going to fix it. I didn't know how to reach her, but I also knew I couldn't keep trying and failing. "Sarah," I said, my voice quieter this time, "what happened to us?" She let out a sharp breath, clearly annoyed. "God, John, you've been so clingy lately. It's getting embarrassing, honestly. Like, I can't even hang out with my friends without you making it feel like a problem." The words hit like a slap in the face. Clingy? I hadn't been clingy. I was just trying to get back what we had, trying to connect. But it didn't matter. She saw me as a problem now. I didn't say anything for a moment, just standing there, stunned. It wasn't just the words that hurt. It was the way she said them, like I was some burden she had to put up with. She saw me as weak. She saw my efforts as pathetic. My throat tightened. "I didn't know I was being embarrassing," I muttered, trying to hold it together. "Sorry for wanting to be close." "Yeah," she said, already turning away. "Well, maybe you should take the hint." The air in the room felt suffocating. I stood there, silent as she walked past me, her steps already fading into the hallway. It was like I wasn't even there anymore. It wasn't about one bad night. It was about everything, the distance that had been growing between us for so long. And in that moment, I realized there was no going back. No amount of trying or reaching out was going to change what was happening. Sarah wasn't coming back to me. I just didn't know how to let go. After that night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to chase her anymore. No more gestures, no more trying to get her to talk. I wasn't going to beg for her attention, for her affection. If she didn't want me, then I wouldn't keep pretending like things were okay. I started doing things for myself. I signed up at the gym, started going every morning before work. I hadn't done that in years, but it felt good. I forgot what it was like to have that kind of time, just for me. I started meeting up with friends again, the ones I'd been neglecting because I was always too focused on Sarah. I picked up old hobbies too, things I had put aside just to keep her happy. It was almost like I was remembering who I was before all this. At first, Sarah didn't even seem to notice. She spent more time out of the house, going to yoga classes, brunches, or hanging out with friends. She barely acknowledged my presence when she came home, slipping in and out of the apartment with the same detached air. Her disinterest was becoming more obvious, and as much as I hated it, I couldn't ignore it anymore. One night, I came home from the gym and found her in the living room, standing in front of the mirror. She was dressed up, more put together than I'd seen her in months. Skinny jeans, a blouse that hugged her frame just right, hair styled perfectly. She glanced over at me as I walked in, but there was no smile, no warmth, just that same blank look. "You going out?" I asked, my voice flat. "Yeah," she said, pulling on a pair of heels. "I'm meeting up with some friends. You know how it is." I nodded, but the words felt hollow. A few months ago, I would have felt something, maybe even a little pang of jealousy. But now, I just felt numb. Seeing her all dressed up didn't move me anymore. It didn't make my heart race the way it used to. She saw the look on my face, and her eyes flicked away quickly, like she was uncomfortable with me even being in the room. "You're not going to wait up, are you?" she asked, already turning toward the door. "No," I said, more to myself than her. I was done. The person she was now didn't even resemble the woman I'd fallen for. And as much as I hated to admit it, I didn't miss her anymore. I missed who she used to be, the way we used to laugh together, the way we used to talk for hours. But that was gone. I didn't even know who this stranger in front of me was. She didn't respond. She just grabbed her purse and left without another word. I stood there, in the middle of the living room, looking around at the apartment that used to feel like home. It was quiet. It was empty. And for the first time, I didn't feel desperate for it to change. I was starting to realize I didn't need to hold on to this, whatever this was. It wasn't love anymore. It was just a broken routine, dragging us both through the motions. She was already gone, and I was slowly starting to accept that. I wasn't going to waste any more energy trying to fix something that was beyond saving. I had a lot of work to do on myself. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like I was finally heading in the right direction. A few weeks went by, and the weight of the relationship started to feel lighter, almost non-existent. I stopped trying to make things work, stopped expecting anything from Sarah. I focused on myself, working out, hanging out with friends, getting back to the things I had let slide. I felt good, lighter, more like myself than I had in months. There was an ease to it, to being alone, to doing things for me without having to worry about someone else's mood or attention. Sarah, on the other hand, started to notice. One evening, she came home with a bottle of wine in hand, a tentative smile on her face. "I was thinking we could have dinner tonight," she said, like it was no big deal. "Sure," I said, not even looking up from the book I was reading. She didn't push, didn't try to make it into anything more than what it was. It felt like she was testing the waters, trying to see if I'd react, if I'd show any sign of wanting things to go back to how they were. We sat down to dinner, and she made the effort to engage in conversation. She asked about work, about the gym, about my friends, small talk, but there was nothing behind it, no real curiosity. I could tell she was trying to rekindle something, but I wasn't giving her much to work with. "I saw your old gym buddy today," she said, swirling her wine. "You guys still talk?" "Yeah," I said, "every now and then." She waited for more, but I didn't offer anything else. She glanced at me like she expected something, but I just ate my food, keeping the conversation polite but distant. When the silence stretched on, she reached across the table and brushed her fingers against my hand, a light touch, almost hesitant. It was a small gesture, but it was clear what she was trying to do. She was testing the waters. She was hoping for something, some spark. I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. I didn't feel the need to. She left her hand resting there for a moment, but I didn't hold it, didn't squeeze it. I didn't even look at it. I just took another bite of my food, my mind elsewhere. "John," she said, breaking the silence again. Her voice was softer now, like she was trying to coax something out of me. "Why are you being like this?" I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure what I would say. Instead, I shrugged. "I'm not being anything." She looked frustrated, but she didn't argue. Instead, she shifted in her chair, her eyes drifting to the window. The tension was palpable, thick in the air. She hadn't expected me to pull away this much. She hadn't expected me to stop trying, to stop needing her to notice. She picked up her wine again, then set it down. Her fingers tapped lightly against the glass, a sign she was thinking, maybe second-guessing herself. "You're different," she said, almost to herself. "You're not like you used to be." I didn't say anything to that either. I wasn't the person I used to be. And it wasn't because I'd changed. It was because I wasn't going to keep pretending like I didn't see what was happening. She had already checked out. I was just the last to figure it out. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms, staring at me now. Are you just done with me then? It was hard to hear her say it, but I didn't flinch. I just looked at her. I'm not done with you, but I'm done trying to make this work if you're not. She let out a short, frustrated breath, then stood up, pacing around the kitchen. This isn't fair, John, she said, her voice sharp now. I'm trying, and you're just not. You've been trying? I asked, not hiding the bitterness in my voice. I don't see it. I see you showing up when it's convenient, but you're already checked out. You don't even look at me when I'm here, so I'm supposed to just pretend? I don't know what you want from me anymore, she snapped, her voice cracking. I'm not a mind reader. I was done with the back and forth. She didn't need to be a mind reader. She just needed to stop pretending like nothing had changed. I wasn't going to keep giving her pieces of myself if she wasn't willing to give anything back. I just want you to be honest with me, I said quietly, about what this is, about what we're doing here. She stared at me for a long moment, the frustration in her eyes giving way to something else, something I couldn't place. But she didn't say anything else. Instead, she just walked to the door, grabbed her jacket, and left again, just like that. No apology, no acknowledgement of what had just been said. I sat there in silence, the weight of it all sinking in. She had no idea what she was doing to this, to us. But I did, and I was done. The next day, Sarah came home earlier than usual, the door slamming behind her with a force that made me flinch. I didn't even have to look up to know she was pissed. She didn't speak at first, but I could feel her eyes on me, like she was waiting for me to acknowledge her, waiting for me to say something, anything. I stayed quiet, staring at my phone, trying to hold on to the calm I had started to find. But I wasn't fooling anyone, least of all her. Finally, she spoke, her voice sharp. What the hell is going on with you? I set my phone down and met her gaze. What do you mean? You've been acting different, cold, distant, like you don't even care anymore. I wasn't surprised. It was just her way of turning it all on me, but I wasn't about to play into it, not this time. I'm just giving you the space you clearly need, I said, my voice steady. You've been doing your own thing, and I've been doing mine. I figured you'd appreciate it if I stopped pretending everything was fine. Her face flushed with frustration. So that's it? You're just giving up on us? Is that your big plan now? I'm not giving up, I said calmly. I'm just done trying to fix something that's already broken. I can't keep pretending like we're fine when we're not. She crossed her arms, her jaw tightening. You've become so withdrawn, John. You never try to make things better anymore. I shook my head. I've been trying. I tried all along, but you never noticed. You didn't care. It's always been me trying to keep this thing alive while you've been checked out, doing everything but being here. Her eyes narrowed. That's not true. I've been busy with work and busy with everything else but me, I cut in, my voice sharper than I meant. I get it. You're always too busy for us. You always have something else to do, somewhere else to be. You made it clear that our relationship isn't a priority. So I stopped pretending like I was okay with it. She stepped forward, her voice rising. That's not fair. I've had things going on, John. You don't get to turn this all on me and act like it's all my fault. I've been working my ass off. I'm not saying it's all your fault, I said, feeling my frustration build. But you never make time for us. I've tried to make this work, but you're too busy to even try back. I'm done pretending like it's just bad timing or some phase. It's been months. Her face hardened. So what? Now I'm the bad guy? I'm too busy, too focused on everything else, and you're just too emotional, too needy? Is that it? I held her gaze, not backing down. You've been too busy, and I've been too emotional, yeah. But I'm done pretending that it doesn't hurt. I'm done chasing someone who's already gone. She laughed bitterly, almost in disbelief. You've been acting like a damn martyr this whole time. You're so focused on your problems that you haven't even noticed I've been drowning in mine. I felt a sharp pang in my chest. I've noticed, but you never gave me the chance to help. You've been so distant, Sarah. I've been trying to fix a relationship that's already falling apart, and you haven't even noticed. I've been working. I've been doing what I have to do. I've been busy with other commitments. Her voice wavered for a moment, but she quickly regained control. You don't understand what it's like, John. It's not just about you. I don't have time for your emotional baggage right now. The words hit me harder than I wanted to admit, but I didn't flinch. I understand more than you think. You made it clear that I wasn't important enough to make time for, and I get it now. I really do. We stood there, the silence stretching out between us, thick and suffocating. I wasn't sure what she expected me to say. I wasn't even sure what I expected her to say, but it didn't matter anymore. We were both so damn tired of pretending. You're right, I said finally, my voice low. I've been trying to fix a relationship that's already broken, and I don't know how to fix it anymore. She didn't say anything to that. Instead, she just stared at me, her face a mixture of frustration, confusion, and maybe even regret. But there was no going back from this. Not now. She didn't speak again. She just turned and walked away, disappearing down the hallway. And I stayed there, feeling a cold emptiness creep in, but also a strange sense of relief. I didn't expect her to come back. I thought she'd walk away for good. That would be the end of it. But she didn't. A few minutes later, Sarah returned, her eyes red and her cheeks streaked with tears. She stood in the doorway, trembling slightly, like she wasn't sure what to say or how to even begin. "John," she whispered, her voice shaky, "why are you giving up on us?" The sight of her like this, the tears on her face, hit me harder than I expected. But it wasn't because I still loved her. It wasn't because I wanted to hold her or fix things. It was because I realized, finally, that I wasn't the same person anymore. I wasn't the guy who would bend over backward to make everything okay. I wasn't even the guy who used to care about keeping this relationship alive. I'd changed. And this was the moment I knew I was done. "I'm not giving up," I said softly, though my voice didn't have the weight it used to. "I'm just not fighting anymore." She wiped her eyes and looked at me, her lips trembling. "I didn't realize how much I pushed you away. I didn't mean to. I didn't know you were feeling like this." I felt a pang of sadness, but it wasn't for her. It wasn't because I wanted things to go back to the way they were. It was for the version of me that once believed we could make it work. The guy who kept trying, kept hoping, even when the signs were right in front of me. "I don't miss the relationship, Sarah," I said, finally letting the words out, the truth that had been sitting in me for months. "I miss who we used to be. I miss the people we were before everything started falling apart." Her tears kept coming, but it didn't change anything. "But we can fix this," she said, voice breaking. "We can work through it. I can try harder. I swear." "No," I interrupted, shaking my head. "It's not about trying harder. It's about something that's already broken. I'm not trying to fix it anymore." The words felt final, but also freeing. It wasn't a decision I had made in the heat of the moment. It was something that had been building, something that had grown inside of me over time. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just done. "I'm sorry," I said, though it didn't feel like an apology. "But this isn't what I want anymore." She swallowed hard, and for a second, I thought she might say something else, beg me to stay, promise things would be different. But she didn't. She just stared at me, as if she was seeing me for the first time in a long time. "I need space," I said, my voice firm now. "I need to figure out what I want without all this tension. I need to be on my own for a while." Her face crumpled and she took a shaky step back, looking at me like I had just shattered something. Maybe I had, but I couldn't stay in something that wasn't working. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep trying to hold on to something that wasn't there anymore. I think it's time for me to move out," I added, the words feeling heavier than I wanted them to. She didn't say anything. She just nodded, as if she had already known this was coming, and maybe she did. I walked past her, not knowing what to say, not wanting to say anything more. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, more suffocating. It wasn't just the space. It was the emotional weight of everything between us, and I knew that I couldn't keep living like this. I needed a change, a break, to figure out who I was without this relationship defining me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It wasn't about leaving her. It was about leaving behind the version of myself that had been stuck in this broken relationship. It was about taking control again. It wasn't easy. It wasn't painless. But it was what needed to happen. I woke up early the next morning, knowing what I had to do. I didn't want to linger in the apartment any longer than necessary. Didn't want to risk seeing her before I was done packing. The idea of being in the same space, pretending like nothing was happening, felt unbearable. I started with the easy stuff: clothes, books, the few things I kept on the bathroom counter. I moved through the apartment methodically, trying not to think too much, trying to keep my mind from running wild. But as I picked up the last of my things, the weight of the decision pressed down on me. I was really doing it. I was leaving. I heard the door click open just as I finished packing the last of my stuff into the box. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze for a second, but I didn't look up. I couldn't face her yet. I heard her footsteps, slow, tentative. She must have known what was going on. I could feel her standing there, watching me without saying anything. Her breath was shallow. She didn't have to say a word for me to know she was shaken, even if she tried to hide it. "You're really leaving, aren't you?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I stood up, looking at her for the first time that morning. She looked like she hadn't slept, her eyes red from tears, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked smaller, defeated somehow. But I couldn't let that change anything. "I need space, Sarah," I said, keeping my voice even, steady. "I need to figure out who I am outside of this relationship." Her eyes searched mine, like she was looking for something, an explanation maybe, or a reason to change my mind. But I couldn't offer her that. I had nothing left to give. "Don't you think we can fix this?" she asked, her voice trembling now. "We can work through it, right? We can still make this work." I shook my head, slowly, the sadness in my chest tightening. "I don't think we can. Not anymore." Her face twisted for a moment, like she wanted to say something else, but the words wouldn't come. I could see the fight in her eyes, the frustration, the desperation. But I also saw something else, something I hadn't seen in a while. A flicker of the person I used to know, the one who cared about what we had. But it wasn't enough anymore. She swallowed hard. "So that's it? You're just done?" "I'm not done with you," I said, though it didn't feel like the right words. "I'm done with what we've become." She nodded slowly, like she understood, or maybe like she was just trying to accept it. But the way she stood there, the way she was holding herself together, I knew she was barely holding it in. She didn't want this, and neither did I, but it didn't matter. I moved toward the door, my box in my hands, but before I left, she said quietly, "I still love you, John." I stopped. I felt that pang in my chest again, the one that had been there for so long, but I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't sure if I even believed her anymore. I wasn't sure if I could ever believe that love was enough when it wasn't backed by anything real. So I just walked out. No more words, no more promises. I didn't even look back. The door clicked shut behind me, and for the first time in a long time, the weight I had been carrying lifted. The silence outside felt different, like a kind of freedom I hadn't known I was missing. The emptiness I had felt before was still there, but it wasn't the same. It was a new kind of quiet, one that belonged to me now. The days after I left felt surreal. The apartment was quieter without her. The silence didn't suffocate me anymore. It was like a breath of fresh air. I spent the first few days just getting used to the space, finding my rhythm again. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was constantly treading water, trying to keep afloat in a relationship that was already drowning. I hadn't realized how much of myself I'd lost in all of that until now. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be just me. It wasn't that I didn't care about Sarah anymore, or that I was glad we'd ended things, but I finally understood that I'd been giving so much of myself to her, to us, that I didn't know who I was without it. Now, I was starting to remember. I felt lighter, clearer, more focused on what I needed. Then, one afternoon, my sister called. "Hey, you good?" she asked, her voice casual but knowing. "I've been getting calls from Sarah. She's asking about you." I didn't need to ask how she sounded. I could hear it in my sister's voice. Sarah was desperate. She wanted to fix things. It didn't surprise me. I'd known this moment would come, but hearing it from someone else made it hit harder. "She's been calling you?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Yeah, a lot. Seems like she's trying to find out if you're okay. She wants to talk." I didn't know how to respond at first. I'd already decided I wasn't going back, but hearing about Sarah's desperation made me question if I was making the right choice. But I knew it wasn't about what she wanted. It was about what I needed. "Tell her I'm fine," I said. "But I'm done, you know? I can't go back to that." There was a pause on the other end. "Okay," she said softly. "I get it. You deserve better than all the back and forth." I thanked her, and we ended the call. But as soon as I hung up, my phone buzzed again. A message from Sarah. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much I pushed you away. I was so focused on everything else that I lost sight of what we had. Please, can we talk? I stared at the message for a while, the words echoing in my head. I could feel the guilt creeping in, the temptation to respond, to offer some closure, but I didn't. I wasn't going to fall into that trap again. Instead, I deleted the message, and without thinking twice, I blocked her number. It felt final, a small but important step. I wasn't waiting around for her to apologize or try to fix things. I didn't need her to give me closure. I was taking it for myself, on my own terms. The weight I'd been carrying for months felt gone now, replaced by something I couldn't quite describe, but it was peaceful. The tension that had lived in me was lifting, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I didn't need her to tell me everything would be okay. I didn't need any of the things she couldn't give me anymore. I was okay on my own, and that was enough.